Hey, what is up guys? It's your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be doing an analysis of Quinn's Phoenix. He was 16-0 in this match and ended the game 18-2 and absolutely popped off. I was watching the game, super impressed with his decision making, and so I thought, why not make it a video, talk about it, break it down, so you guys can either play mid Phoenix or just have better decision making from the mid lane in general. And let's break it down. On top of that, go sign up to the gameleap website, guys. I'm posting new content over there almost every day, and I'll see you there. All right, so why is mid Phoenix a thing? This is not a meme. A lot of players do it, and it's completely viable. Why is it viable? Well, I would say there's a couple of things it comes down to. Number one, Phoenix is really good at farming. Right, so if you need to push out waves or kill neutral camps for neutral items or take stacks, whatever it may be, mainly push out waves, Phoenix's fire spirits are a 20-second cooldown at max level with a 20-second duration. So basically you can kill waves with 100% uptime and camps with 100% uptime. The second thing is you have low cooldown nukes in fire spirits and mobility. So it's really easy to gank. If one lane is getting ganked, you can counter gank very easily. You can dive on that lane, TP in and dive. And then finally, you actually have a pretty strong laning stage mid, right? Yeah, the weakness is that fire spirits are a 50-second cooldown at level 1. You do have to be conscious of this, but for the most part, Phoenix, especially at level 3, is quite a good laner 1v1, especially because the attack speed slow from the fire spirits make it very hard to last hit, especially for melee heroes. Okay, so for the laning stage, he actually is going to go Bracer instead of Bottle. Phoenix doesn't need that much mana because you only skill Fire Spirits. You don't skill Sunray with this build at all until much later on, right? So the skill build, Fire Spirits, Icarus Dive, back to Fire Spirits. For items, he's going to go double Bracer immediately and then into Wand and Shreds. In the laning stage, you mainly actually put Fire Spirits on the enemy. And if you're looking to counterpick with this hero, it's actually best against things like Ember Spirit, Void Spirit, even something like Storm Spirit, even though Storm's a bit weaker. These heroes that have to get really close to the creeps are very easy to apply Fire Spirits to. However, Phoenix can do well against almost anything. So once you hit level 3 against a lot of melee heroes, they just straight up can't trade with you anymore. At this point, if the Tiny walks up, really walks up, like you don't want to use them too casually. Does try to get it with the Flag Bearer. Gets denied. That was a nice avalanche. But yeah, at this point, when he knows that the avalanche is on cooldown, it's go time. He can heavily pressure with the Fire Spirits, right? Easily go deep under the tower here, or at least force a couple denies. Okay, you don't really want to dive like that, but that's fine. His main outplay starts around minute 4. The Tiny walks up, and the main thing here is that the Tiny actually burns himself almost completely out of mana. On top of that, you're not going to really lose almost any 1v1s with Phoenix in the early game. Fire Spirits are just that good, right? They're way too much attack speed slow. I believe it's 80, right, with level 2 Spirits. And so he just kind of walks up to this Tiny and keeps the Fire Spirits on him with a couple of attack moves. He's able to chase him down and picks up a kill. Kind of nuts, right? And Phoenix just does that much damage, which is why you're really good against melee heroes you can chase down, just to play that back one more time, right? The Tiny didn't even do anything that crazy. I mean, I would say the Tiny's main mistake is that instead of taking the long way to the rune, he took the short way. And yeah, it just straight up killed him. Another thing you need to keep in mind about Phoenix as a core is that it takes real advantage of Dying Light. This is your facet where you deal 4.5% of your missing health as damage per second to enemies in a 400 radius. It's a really small radius, but essentially if you get low on health, you do this huge burn around you. So the lower you are, the more damage you deal. The higher max health you have, the more damage you also deal, right? So you want to get tanky, and that's why you buy bracers, and that's also why you're going to buy treads. So when he's on top of this Tiny, he's randomly doing these ticks of about, these 25 ticks are his innate, right? And it's huge, huge damage. Just this extra 25 on this Dying Light allows him to chase him down. I mean, he could have even just stuck on top of the Tiny there to finish him off, and he gets a kill. From there, you're going to pick up Boots. I really like that he goes for a Windlace next. This hero is actually very, very slow, and so it's probably the biggest weakness of this hero as a mid. Mid lane heroes, I mean, the faster the better, essentially. I want to talk about this egg. The faster the better, just so you can move from lane to lane. I think Windlace on the majority of mid heroes is almost necessary. Now, this egg, I actually really like. Sure, he was probably a little concerned about getting solo killed, but even though he doesn't end up killing the Tiny with this, it's completely fine. If you're playing mid Phoenix, you're going to hit level 6 early. No, you're not going to hit it at minute 5 most games. You're probably going to hit it at minute 540, closer to 6. He got a solo kill, but this egg is good. It's just the laning stage. Healing 1100 HP 5 minutes in is more than worth it. It also did a decent amount of damage to Tiny, enough to put him in a very uncomfortable position, and now he can continue to lane, continue to deny this Tiny. I don't know why he didn't deny there, But yeah, just continue to zone this guy out with this defensive egg. And egg, I mean, the cooldown isn't that bad. Compared to spells like Black Hole and Ravage, you know, it's fine. It's not 140, it's not 180. It's an okay 120. It's really not that bad. Now, as I mentioned before, Phoenix is really good at TPing into plays. He comes mid here, looking for the wave, right? I mean, it makes sense. You're just going to push in this wave. There's another wave behind. I mean, I wouldn't even want to TP in this position, but Phoenix is incredibly good at pushing or punishing dives, right? So they're going on the bristle, a couple of goose stacks, and he flies in. And this is actually a kill on Chen, which seems insane, right? You might be really afraid to dive into 2 full HP heroes. But again, maxed out fire spears are straight up broken. I mean, this spell, once you have 4 points in it, is one of the best spells in the game. One of the most well-rounded, hardest spells to fight in the game, which is why this is such a strong tempo hero. Keeps a couple of stacks on Chen, makes sure not to stack the duration, and gets a kill on the Chen. From there, he's going to head back mid. And keep in mind, once you have level 7 fire spirits, you can just cast them off cooldown. Yes, it costs mana and it costs health, but still, because it's a 20-second duration, 20-second cooldown, if you actually want to maximize the amount of fire spirits you have for a fight, you should be using them constantly. Because think about it. If you use the fire spirits when you walk up to a creep wave or initiate a fight, that's when it goes on cooldown. But if you have the fire spirits for 10 seconds remaining and you get to use all 4 of them within that 10 seconds, you're going to have another 4 in 10 seconds. So instead of waiting that full 20 seconds, you basically get that extra set. And so good Phoenix players will just constantly be taking out fire spirits as long as they have the HP and the mana to do so. So even here, you could argue if he feels like he has enough health, he could take out the fire spirits right now just to make sure he has as many as possible to try to take out this Chaos Knight as he flies in. Really trying to take advantage of the Dying Light. And again, just reapplying these fire spirits, following him. I love how he's using this kind of windlace movement speed, this treads movement speed, to just sort of try to keep the Dying Light on top of the CK. Barely doesn't get him initially. Fight continues on. And his egg discipline here is insane. I mean, this is the sign of just like a professional player, right? Most people would have clicked egg almost instantly there, but he's just holding it, holding it, holding it. Doesn't even get tempted by this. I mean, that's crazy. Didn't even get tempted by that CK stun. Just knows he's fine. Dive comes back up. He has a 13 wand, so he still can kind of bait. Has to be a little nervous when the Tusk walks up. I mean, not really, I guess. The Tusk is level 5, so technically he didn't have to wand there. Kites out. Decides he can go back in. Takes the long way. I mean, oh, this is crazy. Finds the CK, and yeah, he actually just kills him this time. Still doesn't egg. Like, this sequence, when I was watching this, I'm like, wow, this is some crazy egg discipline. And eventually, it's funny, I actually really like this egg at the end here, right? So this egg, the main reason why I like it is his spells are on cooldown, and I think in the early game, just use egg defensively. This ability does about radiance damage. It's actually less damage per second than fire spirits, and people don't get that. They think of Supernova as this really OP early game ability where you need to hit as many heroes as possible. I have the exact opposite mentality. I think the best value of Supernova is resetting your health and resetting fire spirits if they're on cooldown, and Icarus Dive, which is more likely to be on cooldown. And in this case, all these things were true. So I think it's a really good usage of the Supernova to reset the cooldowns. Maybe it wasn't necessary, but I definitely like the idea. Now for your next item, we're going to be rushing Shivas. I do think in this game, it would have been really tempting, at least for me, to buy a Vessel. I think that item's great because it works well with the Dying Light, gives you a lot of max health, which, right, it's 4.5% of your missing health. It gives you that burn over time, that percentage burn, which is really good against tanky heroes like Tiny and CK. Even Tusk becomes a very high HP hero. And then it also negates healing, and they have a Chen. So honestly, this game I might have liked to see the Vessel. I just believe it's a really good Phoenix item. However, the Shiva's Rush has become very popular. And it's pretty straightforward. This hero really lacks armor. And to be fair, the armor of this game is really good against CK, Razor, Chen, Tusk. You know, even Tiny a little. It's not bad as he flies in here. But it's mostly about the slow, right? The AoE application of Shiva's doing spell amp and slow with Icarus Dive and Fire Spirits is great. And then AoE attack speed slow has always been a classic combo with Phoenix. Phoenix has been buying Shivas for forever because, you know, it's harder to hit egg if you have 45 less attack speed in this huge AoE. So he comes back mid, looking to siege the tower. You actually siege pretty quick when you have treads. You hit pretty hard at 125, only minute 10. This is without any damage neutral item as well. And he continues to push out the wave. If you don't see any angles, like if the game is going really so slow paced, that's fine. just flash farm. This hero scales incredibly well. It has really, really good scaling ability. Sunray naturally scales. You're buying some of the best items in the game if you go Shivas. You're literally rushing a late game item, so that's great. Gets smoked by his Hoodwink here, comes bottom. He really likes diving in, and I kind of respect it. I think on support Phoenix, this tends to be a bad idea because you're just not nearly as tanky at minute 11. Right? You don't have 2k HP and 8 armor. With a safety bubble, you're just not going to have these things. Maybe the safety bubble. You might have the safety bubble. But yeah, he's diving in, really using that early dying light damage, even though it does kind of not that much if you're close to full HP, if you're missing like a fourth of your health. It's not going to do that much, but it's still worth it. Now at level 10, he actually takes Icarus Dive slow, which I think is pretty cool. A lot of people are really tempted to take the damage, and I think the damage per second is totally fine. But honestly, it makes it a 25% slow all the way to a 50% slow. I mean, it's a crazy number, 50% slow. This is like Venomous Gale levels of slow, and it sticks on them. I think it's 4 seconds. Yeah, it's 4 seconds, so I think either talent is good, but let me tell you, I mean, look at this slow. The Tusk cannot move at all. Yeah, at this point, he's just continuing to apply his Fire Spirits, using Icarus Dive very aggressively this game, which I think is fine because he's a Shield Room, which actually has so much synergy with the innate. Yeah, he gets a shield room, which is pretty OP here. Just playing super high tempo. Again, you don't really have real cooldowns on Phoenix. You don't even need egg to fight. Like, he could skirmish without egg. And again, like, in between fights, I mean, you farm really fast on this hero. I mean, he clicks the Veil. He's got the innate going on both of them. And he wipes out 2 camps instantly. I mean, this hero is just a good core. Like, it has been for forever. A lot of people, I don't know, I think it's just kind of hard to play, almost. You gotta hit your spells, know the positioning, know the limits on egg. But the main thing I'd say is that one thing that will make this hero, if you want to play it and really have a good game, just use egg defensively. I think a big thing that griefs people with Phoenix is, the Shiva's timing. The Shiva's timing with the Icarus Dive slow, they cannot move. But yeah, I think a big thing that griefs people is just that they use egg way too aggressively. Their mindset is, I'm going to dive in, click 4 spirits instantly, and then click egg in the first 4 or 5 seconds of the fight. And if you do this, you're ruining your hero. You're not taking advantage of dying light by just kind of existing next to people with low health. You're not taking advantage of spreading out the damage of Fire Spirits. And even just, if you're core Phoenix, just right-clicking, right? It's reasonably effective. It's, I would say, pretty comparable damage to clicking egg. And so yeah, just use the egg defensively. Use it late into the fight and use it defensively. On a build like this, and you're going to have way more success. Right? He is not rushing the egg at all. So at level 15, Phoenix has 2 fantastic talents. 20 Fire Spirits damage per second or 20 HP regen. I mean, honestly, the 20 HP regen, you might read it and say, oh, that's bad with Dying Light. Right? I want to be low HP. But honestly, it allows you to just continue to put out Fire Spirits. And I know I'm repeating myself at this point, but the point of the hero is to click W and hit Ws and spread them out. It is 400 damage with this 15 talent per spirit, because if you spread it out perfectly, this is a 1600 damage nuke if spread out perfectly, and that's not including Shiva's, right? Shiva's amp. So that's what people don't understand. This hero is the W, right? You pick Phoenix to cast W, right? It's why it's really good against heroes like Tusk. I mean, teams will literally pick Phoenix into Tusk or physical damage comps because you're playing around the attack speed slow. You're playing around the damage per second of the W. As finds another good angle here. Again, continuing to hold his egg. Gets 4-staffed out here. That was a nice 4-staff from the Hoodwink. Super huge. Great cogs as well. Late egg, defensive egg, right? Not in the middle of the enemy team. Now commits in, going super deep, but I mean, they have no attack speed. At this point, CK with no Phantasm or no Manta can never fight a Phoenix. You basically can't hit. I mean, he's going to hit once here or something like that. Not even. Not even. As he applies the Fire Spirits to the Chen. Looks for one on Razor, which was kind of cheeky, but I think he missed. Just generally aim for the people close to you. I wouldn't go too crazy. Fire Spirits come back up, and they win the fight. For his next item, he buys BKB, which is kind of lame. I mean, let's be real. No way I'm buying a BKB. Like, sure, it's good, You're not going to die to Tiny. You don't want to get bursted. This guy bought an Orchid, but I don't know. Just buy, it's way more fun to buy, Sanch and Yasha and push your limits. Right? I mean, that just sounds far more enjoyable. So as the game progresses, Phoenix definitely can be put in a weird spot. In terms of items, he's going Bloodstone, which I mean is kind of cool. It obviously amps the radius of the Q, of the W, of the Sunray, of the ult, of the Shivas, of the eventual radius. I mean, Bloodstone definitely makes a lot of sense on this hero. I do think this is kind of why I like Vessel. I think as the game progresses, it's still nice to have this Vessel in the late game. Just applying it to heroes, as long as they don't have a Dispel, or if they've committed their Dispel, really helps you amp your damage and continue to be this backline poke hero. And as the game progresses, I think you become more and more of a backline poke hero. He's trying not to be that, which I think is fine. I mean, this is a cool build. This is more of a frontline build. You're going to click your BKB, you're going to click your Shivas, you're going to have your Radiance. All of these things help the egg, right? Because you're not going to get bursted, so you don't have to panic with the egg because of the BKB. And then the attack speed's low, as well as the AoE evasion or mischance, I should say, from the Radiance. So this is kind of like a classic 1v9 Phoenix build. Your next item can be something like Kaya Sanj to give you some spell amp. Even as I was mentioning earlier, the Sanj and Yasha, so you have status resist, so you don't get bursted. He also even could buy something like Manta to dodge CK spells and just split push with Radiance. I mean, his Cloak of Flames as well, so Manta is kind of a cool option at this point of the game, like a Manta Octarine build would be really, really nice. But yeah, let's look at the last fight of the game. Kind of just watch his natural positioning. I mean, I don't think Quinn is some huge Phoenix player, so I don't expect the Sunray usage to be the best, because this ability is actually quite challenging. But once you hit level 20, you get max health Sunray damage. It's way better than Supernova Stun Duration. I don't think it's close. And this ability becomes insane. I mean, it is crazy, crazy damage as you channel it. It does more damage the longer the beam fires. It's not the longer you keep it on someone. I used to think that. It's just the longer you fire it. So like the end of the beam is just insane damage as BKB going. Has to be a little careful. Yeah, kites out a bit when the BKB is ending. Again, I mean, maybe this is where you could commit the Sunray. I think it's good to pair it with stuns though, right? So if a cog comes out, like, okay, if this guy's BKB'd, so you're not going to pop it now. You do want to look for it on heroes like Tiny or CK that have this really high HP pool. Dives forward with the Shivas. And this is really good too. In Teamfights, I mean, this is not the best example of what I want to talk about, but in Teamfights, when the fight breaks out and you have BKB Shivas, you can just show everyone on the enemy team. You just provide complete vision, cancel blinks, apply a massive AoE slow and amp for what, 16 seconds is the damage amp? The slow is only 40, but the damage amp, or the spell amp, 16 seconds long. And then yeah, Sunray against heroes like Tiny just destroys them. I also think he should probably buy a shard. If you don't know what Phoenix Shard is, it makes Sunray slow. And most importantly, you can cast Sunray during egg. So like right here, when he's killing this Tiny, if he's about to get stunned, he can click egg and it will continue to Sunray the Tiny. And that's where most of his damage comes from at this point of the game. It is the Sunray in the late game. But because he doesn't have Shard, it cancels the initial Sunray, which kind of sucks because you lose out on a lot of damage, maybe even just killing the Tiny. And then, well, yeah, you just cancel the Sunray, which is kind of worst case scenario. But alright, that's going to be all for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I know this is something a bit different. Probably not expecting a random Phoenix mid guide. But yeah, this game looked really promising. I mean, he played incredibly well. I think a lot of his execution on this hero was extremely good. Considering, I mean, I can't even imagine he's a Phoenix player. So it just goes to show how good of a Dota understanding Quinn actually has. I mean, I've played quite a lot of Phoenix to understand this hero. And give some of the tips that I've given today. But yeah, I don't know, maybe he has and I just don't know. Yeah, really good execution. Love the egg usage, love the fire spear usage. And I'll see you guys on the next one.
And that's all, but remember, before you leave, come on, before you tune out, subscribe to the GameLeap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace.